We're being warned a super El Niño weather pattern could form in the next 90 days. And if it does, it could bring with it the threat of droughts and heat waves.
If you thought last year's record-breaking temperature was a one-off event, you're in for a surprise. El Niño is almost here and is all set to wreak havoc across the world with blazing temperatures and heat waves that will put previous years to shame. Are we ready for what's headed towards us? According to NASA, 2022 was among the hottest years the world has ever seen. But did you know that the Earth was experiencing a cooling phase called El Niño from spring 2020 all the way to early 2023? Shocking, right? If the Earth heats its peak temperature in a cool phase, imagine what would happen when it transitions into El Niño. Scientists fear the return of El Niño later this year will cause global temperatures to escalate off the chart and produce unprecedented heat waves everywhere. Early forecasts indicate that this climatic phenomenon will return later in 2023, maybe even raising the world's temperature by over 1.5 degrees centigrade. The hottest year in recorded history was 2016, a year driven by a major El Niño, and we can only imagine what changes it will bring this year. Before moving on to the catastrophic situation El Niño is expected to cause, let's first understand what it entails. El Niño is part of a climate phenomenon called the El Niño Southern Oscillation, or ENSO system. It has two opposite states, El Niño and La Niña, both of which influence climate and weather patterns around the world. The past few years have been successive La Niña periods, which signify lower temperatures and heavy rains in parts of Canada and Australia. These weather patterns occur as a result of the changing ocean temperatures in the east-central equatorial Pacific Ocean. The surface of the ocean water cools over time due to the strength of the trade winds that blow from east to west. As atmospheric conditions change, it alters ocean surface temperature, ultimately modifying rainfall patterns. You can think of it as a dance between ocean and temperature, with El Niño at one end of the spectrum and La Niña at the other. During La Niña, the cold phase, the ocean water becomes cooler due to the direction of the wind, leading to winter temperatures going even lower in the northwest of the US and warmer than average in the southeast. 1998 saw an unusually cool period where the dropping water temperature caused the atmosphere to cool in response. Since less water evaporated, the air felt cooler, denser, and drier. The increased air density discouraged it from rising or developing into storms, resulting in less rain in some parts of the world, including Ecuador, Peru, the Eastern Pacific, and the southeastern United States. El Niño is the opposite of this state. Can you guess how it is caused? It occurs when warm water builds up along the central and eastern tropical Pacific Ocean. El Niño causes more water to evaporate, raising the moisture content in the air and resulting in more rainstorms. During the El Niño phase, winter temperatures in the US are warmer than usual in the northwest with less rainfall, while the southeast faces wetter than average conditions. In 1997, ocean water became 6 degrees centigrade warmer than average, causing massive rainfall in some parts of the world. If you remember, this was when parts of southeast United States, including California, experienced historic flooding and landslides. Similarly, sea levels increased more than 6 inches above normal in 2015, resulting in unusually high tides and increased coastal flooding. Now that you understand the phenomenon better, let us explain why the return of El Niño this year is causing concern among scientists. Believe it or not, this year is already forecasted to be much hotter than 2022, which, combined with the effects of El Niño, might take temperatures up to unexpected heights. El Niño occurs during the Northern Hemisphere winter, and it might take a few months to feel the full impact of its heat, which means 2024 may set a new global temperature record. Global warming is already rampant, with average global temperatures up by 1.2 degrees centigrade to date. We have seen the catastrophic effects of this rise in temperature, from searing heat waves in the US and Europe to devastating floods in Nigeria and Pakistan, affecting millions of people. Professor Adam Scaife, the head of long-range prediction at the UK Met Office, forecasts it's very likely that the next big El Niño could take us over 1.5 degrees centigrade. The probability of having the first year at 1.5 degrees centigrade in the next 5-year period is now about 50-50. A global average temperature rise of 1.5 degrees centigrade is regarded as a threshold beyond which our once stable climate will start to collapse in earnest. The change will be all-pervasive, affecting everyone and insinuating itself into all aspects of our lives. But what will happen when global temperatures climb above 1.5 degrees centigrade? It won't be surprising if the record for the highest temperature of 54.4 degrees centigrade in California's Death Valley is broken. It could happen somewhere in the Middle East or South Asia. The UK has already hit a blistering 40 degrees centigrade mark, while some parts of Europe have faced extreme temperatures of 50 degrees centigrade. A significant rise in the average global temperature could cause excessive heat and more records to be broken in these parts of the world. Considering how global warming alters average temperatures, the impacts of El Niño will only worsen and add to the effects of climate change itself. Professor Adam Scaife adds, "You put those two things together and we are likely to see unprecedented heat waves during the next El Niño. Get ready to find out what to expect this year when El Niño strikes." We've already discussed how temperatures will escalate around the world, but that also means severe drought will become the fate of many countries. In 2022, the sweltering heat slashed crop yields in China, India, South America, and Europe, giving rise to food insecurity. Going into 2023, crop stocks are already low, and these areas must gear up for another round of poor harvests. Food shortages can have devastating effects on people, increasing the chances of civil unrest. It will also aggravate inflation in developed countries, raising the cost of living for everyone. The most disturbing effects may be witnessed in the southern United States, where the longest drought in 1,200 years has persisted for over 22 years. The level of Lake Mead on the Colorado River is deteriorating at an alarming pace. So much so that the Hoover Dam's capacity for power generation has decreased by almost 50%. The situation doesn't get any better as you go upstream towards Lake Powell, where the Glen Canyon Dam has been forecast to stop power generation in 2023, should the drought persist any longer. Who is to say the fate of the Hoover Dam will be any different? But can you imagine the implications of these events? The lakes and dams provide water and power to millions of people across 7 states, including California. The suspension of either source could destroy agriculture, industry, and populations across the region. Australia's Bureau of Meteorology issued climate modelling results in early January, indicating Australia could experience the hottest, driest periods on record after 3 consecutive years of above-average rainfall. Researchers believe the chances of severe heat waves Droughts and fires are especially high this year. But that's not all. Wait until you learn about the harmful effects of El Niño on marine life. In normal circumstances, a phenomenon known as upwelling brings up cool, nutrient-rich water from the depths of the ocean. This helps feed the fish living in the upper waters. Kelp forests also depend on cool water to survive and grow. But during El Niño, this process is blocked and sometimes completely stopped. This results in less phytoplankton along the coast, which means less food for certain fish. This causes many fish to either migrate into areas with more food or die. With the fish gone, seabirds also start disappearing and going elsewhere. One of the biggest fuels of El Niño is warmer ocean waters that can cause hurricanes in the Pacific and force marine species to migrate to other areas. According to the data from NOAA, before El Niño even began, daily surface temperature hit record numbers, well above the temperature seen in 2016 when a Godzilla El Niño was loose. The sea's surface temperature is continuously rising, and in January, researchers found that seas warmed an amount equal to the energy of 5 atomic bombs exploding underwater every second for 24 hours a day for the entire year. Can you imagine that? El Niño typically lasts 9 months to a year and often peaks in December and January. El Niño has long been credited for escalating global temperatures, and against the backdrop of greenhouse gas-driven planetary warming, scientists fear El Niño's influence will push the Earth over destabilizing climate change thresholds. A senior scientist at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says, "We're going to see again this big ramp up in global mean surface temperatures. We're still uncertain when El Niño will be here, but one thing is for sure, we are a long way from being prepared for it." Thanks for joining us today, fellows. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and press the notification bell for more news about global natural phenomena. Until next time, stay curious.